Welcome to the Garden State Hip Hop Hour. Welcome back to WKNJ 90.3 FM. This is the Garden State Hip Hop Hour. I'm your host, Rich. Today I have the Devin Hour with me, Devin.
Hey, what's up? I'm so happy to be on somebody else's show for once.
He's going to help me co-host this episode with Amber Corrine.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
And for anyone wondering who she is, she's a writer. She writes for HipHopDX, S.O.B.s. Or go ahead, you can tell like a little background.
Okay, so I am a journalist. Specifically, I do a lot of hip hop pieces. I also interview. I have my own platform, Backstage Chart, which is kind of like, you know, the foundation of it is hip hop artists, but I do branch out to talk to other public figures. And I'm just, you know, doing me. That's pretty much it. Whatever I want to do. That's it.
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever I want to do.
Which do you prefer, though? Which platform? The writing platform or the interviewing platform?
Honestly, my passion is for interviewing, but, you know, right now I'm doing a lot of written work. So if it was up to me, it would be more interviewing than anything else. But, you know, I'm going with the flow.
What made you get to that point where you want to do interviewing?
I just always love talking to people and always just asking questions that I feel like people want to know. I don't know, maybe it's being a little nosy, but
Felt that.
But definitely just, you know, hearing people's stories and sharing it. That's really why I love to interview.
I think you gotta want to be nosy, right? Because doing this, you gotta have that curiosity.
No, for real.
No, yeah, you're right.
For real.
You're right.
You want to dig into people. So who are some of the people you have interviewed on that platform?
On HipHopDX or any platform.
Your
Anything?
platform first.
Well, for my platform, Backstage Chat, I've only interviewed. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Filet.
Has he
He's
twin
a
crossed?
social media star, basketball player. But he kind of came out with that catchphrase Filet. He would sing it, and like all the, you know, ESPN, all the basketball players were singing it too. And he had all these like catchphrases for like the moves that the basketball players would do. So I interviewed him. I also interviewed another young lady who was a victim of. She was molested by someone who was like a close family friend. So that was like a really serious interview I did. And that's pretty much were the top two big ones on there. I'm still kind of growing it and trying to, you know, get back into the swing of things. But for HipHopDX, wow. I've interviewed, I don't even know where to start.
You have like your pick pretty much, right?
Yeah. You know, I'll just say in general, not just for, in general who I've interviewed, not just from platform to platform, but I've interviewed Mano. Oh my God, I can't think right now.
You just said all these people, and now that's
know,
true. That happens when you're put on the spot.
Yes,
I can't remember
it's
everything.
so many people. I'm gonna have to look. Like,
Well, tonight you were supposed to interview Joey Badass, right?
Oh yes. But I'm here.
Look,
here.
yeah,
I
she
came
skipped
for
Joey
you.
Badass
I
to be
came
here
for
with us.
you.
Oh
Yes,
my
I
gosh,
came for
girl.
you. Yes, of course.
Thank you for doing that for us.
One of the most recent ones, I don't know if you watch like the Netflix show Rhythm and Flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I interviewed Troy Man from there. I interviewed London. Yeah, there's a lot of people. It'll come to me as we talk because there's like so many. It's so many.
How do you get to that point of becoming a writer for like a platform like that?
I think definitely has a lot to do with just showing your work ethic. And I feel like once you kind of make yourself visible, people start to kind of gravitate to you. So like we might think that nobody's watching us, but there's people watching, you know. So it kind of started from an internship that I had with a platform called Above Average Hip Hop. And then from there, it kind of grew to me going to Hot 97's The New Movement. I was writing for the feature presentation for a little bit, hip hop since 1987. And then one of my mentors, Riley Wallace, he always wrote for HipHopDX, and he kind of like, he was like, oh, they have a position coming up, and I think you should, you know, try to write for them. And it literally took me like a year before they got back to me, and, you know, here I am. I'm at HipHopDX. So through like relationships and just being consistent and, you know, creating those genuine relationships with people.
How did Backstage Chat come about? Like, when did you start it?
When did I start that? I think I started that like right after I started writing for Above Average Hip Hop. You know, I like that I was given a lot of opportunity there to do different stories, but I kind of wanted to do the stories that I wanted to cover.
Right.
So, you know, like with a platform like that, it's mostly hip hop artists. I wanted to talk to everybody, not just artists. So, you know, that was my way of kind of just expanding myself and just broadening the platform and, you know, making it not just for artists, but for anybody who has a story that's interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like you do, like you said, you had that lady on there. And then I saw you do something recently with Fuse.
Yeah. Fuse pretty much reached out. One of the girls over there that I know, she reached out to me. And I was supposed to sit on like this music panel, but it didn't happen for some reason. So, when the new year came in, she hit me up and she's like, oh, we're doing a Black History one. Would you like to sit on that one? So I was like, of course. Like, why not? It's Fuse, so that's how that came about. And like I said, that's from another relationship that I made. So it's important. Sometimes I know it sounds cliche, but sometimes it is about who you know. You make those connections with people. So
Yeah, networking is key.
Yeah,
Networking is so
absolutely.
key.
Absolutely.
Especially when you are a woman and a Black woman in an industry that is so predominantly male, predominantly white.
Yeah.
Like, how did you navigate through that?
I think just me being myself, honestly staying true to myself. I'm very big on my integrity. I don't do things that don't make me feel something. I don't do things that make me feel uncomfortable. I've turned down plenty of opportunities just because it didn't sit well with me. So
Right.
I think just me, staying true to myself and just knowing that, I belong and I shouldn't have to. I know that, some, people of color, we do have it a little harder than other people, but we got to remember that, even though there's something called white privilege, we have privilege too.
Right.
And we need to kind of own that. So that's what I've pretty much done my entire career.
Yeah, for sure. Because within the Black community, I feel like we always try to we don't really hold ourselves up like we should. We always kind of downplay the opportunities that we have, but we have so much opportunity there. But one thing that's really been bothering me, within my own career, is kind of being that token Black person. Have you ever felt like you were that token Black woman in the situation?
Just a woman, a woman,
or just Black, just being Black, or just being a woman?
Honestly, no. I feel like the career, what I'm doing right now as a writer, it's very diverse. Black, white, Spanish, whatever. So I've never felt like the token Black woman or anything. The only time I've ever felt like that is probably during some of my courses in school. That's it. Other than that, when I'm at an event, I see I see people who look like me, people who don't look like me. I've never felt like I was just a token, Black person.
Do you think it's different because you're in hip hop in comparison to some in pop or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the only thing I can say to that. Yeah. I feel like, if I was trying to be a country writer, of course people would look at me what do you know about
girl,
that?
what are
But
you
you
doing?
never know. You
Right.
never know. So, I think sometimes we shouldn't limit ourselves just because we do, put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. You should never limit yourself. And, you can always be that one person to kind of spark that wave of, something new. So.
Yeah, because we talked about this on the Devin Hour, right? Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. The
Plug it,
Devin
plug
Hour.
it.
We talked about
Backstage
this
chat.
on the Devin Hour where, I'm getting annoyed with just, them putting Black people into boxes, right? Oh, we need to be doing hip-hop or we need to be doing R&B, but, I like pop. I'm a pop girl. I love that. And I love
like
country
pop too.
music. I love all that. So I think we really need to start infiltrating all those spaces so we could be representation so others could come in.
And that's the thing, people, we shouldn't be scared. That's the thing. Just because you see people who don't look like you or, people who are not into the same things as you, you shouldn't, just limit yourself. You should still step into it because sometimes when we put ourselves in uncomfortable positions, the best things come out of it. So I think that, be brave and be fearless and just know who you are. That's really all that I can say about that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And with Backstage Pass, that
Backstage chat.
chat. See, I said chat.
You
before.
tried it.
Backstage chat. My apologies. So you are trying to put a spotlight on these other, like you said, not just hip hop.
Yeah.
So who are some of the people you would be interested in interviewing on that type of show?
Ooh, at the moment, I'm trying to kind of revamp it and just kind of sit back and just really figure out who I would want on there. So I don't have any names for you right now, but I'm in the process of doing all of that. But it'll definitely be of course, people from Jersey, people from all walks of life. I'm so interested in stories that don't get the spotlight. I want to know about producers who have made beats. I want to know about, those photographers, people who are behind the scenes, but they're the ones really, the motor behind it. Those are the stories that I want to tell. So, at the moment, I don't have names for you, but those are the type of people that.
No, that's what I was going to ask. And what kind of people you want to
yeah,
interview?
Yeah, absolutely, background people.
So is that does it motivate you being a background person to want to put a spotlight on other background people?
Yeah, because I feel like I've played both parts. I've been on the camera, I've been behind the camera. I'm the one writing stories. So definitely, because as a writer, sometimes we don't always get the credit or we don't always get the recognition for our work. So I know how that feels. So to put that spotlight on someone else just like me, why wouldn't I do that?
What is your process when you're writing these articles out? Are you just choosing if they got a song coming out or just about their background? What is your preference when you write these things?
Okay, so outside of me working for a major platform, when it's just me picking who I want to write about, I definitely, like, I have a catchphrase where I say potential over popularity. So I'm looking for artists who, you know, you don't have to have the numbers, you don't have to, you know, be verified, but I look to see, like, what is your work ethic like? Like, you know, if you're independent, how are you building your brand on your own without money behind you or without, you know, big names backing you? That's what I always look for, people who are doing the work without, you know, having those people, those big names behind them pushing them. That's what I really look for, people who have potential over popularity. That's really key to it.
Yeah.
You know. Mm-hmm.
Do you think numbers skew our view of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's plenty of artists who, you know, I don't think is that great, but, you know, because they have the numbers, people just gravitate to them.
Okay.
And, you know, and they're just going to say, you know, oh, they're the best because they have the numbers, but that's not always true. You know? I don't even have that many followers, and I feel like what I do is popping. Like, you know,
yo,
like,
you out here
no,
every time.
Numbers don't mean a thing.
Yo, she left me outside the door at S.O.B.s.
I did not.
Just want to put that out there. I hit her up like, Amber, please, like, get me inside.
That's not true.
I had to find my own way back in there.
It was crazy that night. I'm sorry. It was just a crazy night. Like, you know, it has its nights.
Nah,
I'm just Rich out in the cold.
I'll just mess with you.
Hungry.
He's not telling
thirsty.
the truth right now.
Did you not?
I did not.
Did I? I'll show
I
the
left you
text. Outside the office.
We'll talk about
See?
that. That's
No.
not true. It was not
No,
intentional.
I'm just playing
it was
with
not
you.
intentional.
No, I'm just playing with
It
you.
was not intentional.
Which stories do you feel like are least represented in general?
Ooh, least represented. Oh, that's a good question. As far as like music wise or any.
Oh, yeah, any story in general.
Well, kind of like doubling back to what I said. Just those stories of people who kind of made a lot of these things happen, but they don't get the recognition for it. Like, you know, a lot of people kind of appropriate things and they get the recognition for it, you know, instead of the people who kind of created these waves or, you know, innovated these things, and they don't get the recognition. So I think that those are the stories that definitely get overlooked. You know, like, yeah.
Wait, who appropriated something? Put the name out there.
No, well, I don't have any names, but whether it's cultural, whether it's you know, somebody started a certain sound and people take that sound and run with it, and now they're being known for that sound when they didn't really create it. Like, people like that, you know.
Okay. Yeah, that does happen all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, definitely. Remember, like, with Popcorn and all them, like, that happened to them. Dance hall.
I could think of one right now, but I'm not going to.
See, she does have a name. I knew she had one in her head.
You see me digging? I was digging, too.
I won't do that just because I won't do it, because just for reasons, but I definitely have a few names. We can talk about that after we're done. But
can't wait for that tea session.
Absolutely.
Wait, so what's been your favorite story you wrote to this point of your career?
Ooh, I have so many. I don't know. Favorite story. Oh my God, Rich, I don't know. I feel like I put my all into every single story I do. So honestly, if I'm writing a story, like, I'm gonna like that one. Like, I'm not gonna write a story that I don't care about.
Okay.
You know, so I would say majority of all of them, but once I think of one in particular, I will let you know.
So who's been your favorite artist to work with?
My favorite artist to work with. Oh my God, I feel like you put me on the spot.
Who had like the most intriguing story that you got to write about?
Let me think.
Options.
Oh, you know what? Not even from my platform. The girl that I talked to that was molested. That was really the craziest. I don't want to say crazy in that sense, but it was definitely the most intense interview and story I've ever done. You know, because like I said, she went through that. And to hear her like retell it, you know, she went viral for it, and it was just a lot. And just to talk to her about that, like, that's probably like one thing that I'll never forget, like, as a journalist.
And how do you even operate doing that? Like, I imagine it's gonna be hard to ask certain questions, or.
I mean, yeah, I feel like you kind of feel the flow. Like, how's it going? Like, you know, if someone's getting kind of uncomfortable, there's certain places that you probably shouldn't go with them. But she was just willing to just talk about it, so I just felt like I could keep, you know, going with the questions. But it was definitely hard. You know, me being a woman at that, and just knowing that, you know, that could have been me too, you know. But it happened to her, and not only did it happen to her, it was a family friend that, you know, family members allowed to be around her. So that was really hard, and I could tell it was hard for her too. So that's definitely one story I'll never forget.
Yeah, I think, like, as a journalist, sometimes it's hard, like, to press those issues like that. That's why I was like, how do you, like, move in that space? Because
I mean, sometimes you kind of gotta detach, you know, because I think what's most important is getting some of those stories out that could help other people. And I feel like sometimes if we get too, you know, sensitive about it or too caught up in it, we kind of miss that mark of telling the story. So sometimes you gotta kind of desensitize and detach your own personal feelings to it. as long as you're being ethical and not, at the end of the day, this is someone's story and you want to tell it right. So you got to be very careful. It's a thin line.
Okay. What are some topics that you feel like are taboo to talk about?
I don't know. I guess sex. Sex is definitely taboo. I think sometimes like political issues, cultural issues. These are important topics that should be addressed, but sometimes we don't want to. I don't know why. Because this is life. But
sex for one, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think sex is taboo to talk about in 2020?
Yeah, for sure.
Really? I feel like everything's out there.
Because, certain people, they might not want to discuss, like, what they like.
Oh, you're talking about directly asking somebody. Okay.
Yeah. That, or they might be afraid to admit, okay, that I like this, but at the end of the day, like, it's pleasure. Like, you like what you like, and you shouldn't be afraid to talk about it. People like what they like.
Even further than that, just being, like, having safe sex, like
for sure.
We need to talk about that.
Such a lack of sex education in schools.
It's not funny, but I saw this on Twitter. I think it was Instagram. Somebody said, we found out about the coronavirus that everybody wants to buy face masks and stuff, but HIV and AIDS have been around for years and nobody wants to wear a condom.
No, I'm sorry.
I thought that was
I laughed. Yes, I laughed. That was hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious, but it's funny. Yeah.
I know it is funny, but it's like it's the truth,
Yeah, such a lack of sexual education.
Yeah, I think that's a taboo topic, though. And like you said, it's a part of life, so why not talk about it?
Yeah.
But like keeping it in hip hop, who talks about having safe sex? You know what I'm saying? You got A$AP Rocky out here talking about, orgies.
We're not going to talk about A$AP, all right? Because he has a special place in my heart.
No, I'm not saying it's negative. I'm saying, but like just even as a part of hip hop culture, like those things aren't touched upon anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it would be real nice to hear rappers say like,
I put a condom on first.
That'd be so nice.
It would be nice to hear, and it's very ideal. But it's like they want to sell records at the end of the day.
They do.
We might be the very few people who will buy it, but a lot of people they want to hear,
Yeah, but that goes deeper though. I feel like it does go deeper as to like the, here I go, the presentation of men and how they want to be portrayed. But you could tune in for the Devin Hour for that conversation.
Okay, plug it.
I think would be interesting. Did you guys hear that thing that Bad Bunny said? Like I guess he was open about sexuality, and he was he's like, today I could be dating a woman, and in 20 years I'll be dating a man.
When did he say that? I don't know.
It was
he said that recently.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey.
I was just thinking about that when you said people don't want to talk about those things, but he had an interview and he said that like.
I mean,
Bad Bunny's rare.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like I said, think about it. How many rappers do we really know of that are homosexual? And even if they are, they're not coming out and saying it, because like people don't want to talk about that. People, it's like a very touchy subject for some, but it's reality. Yeah. And it would be ideal to talk about things like that, but until we get there, like people are still gonna hide it.
Yeah.
And,
and it's just layers upon that. Like I said, like the portrayal of men, society's views, gender norms. Like there's so many layers that go into that.
Yep.
So we're gonna start wrapping this up. This was the Garden State Hip Hop Hour. You can tell where they can find you, your social media, your Instagrams.
Okay, so you guys can follow me on Instagram at amber.corrine. That's amber.corrine. On Twitter, it's ambercorrine_. My email is ambercorrinemedia@gmail. Serious inquiries only. And that's it.
Make sure y'all check them out. This is the Garden State Hip Hop Hour. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. We'll catch you next week.